Today is the 21st of June. It's a Wednesday. We've enjoyed a few days in Napoli or Naples and thoroughly enjoyed walking around the city, enjoying the historical sites. And Roy got to have his Napolitano pizza last night, which he thoroughly enjoyed. And this is the headland of the end of the peninsula from Italian mainland, and we've basically left the mainland now and heading to these outer islands. Can't remember the name of this one, but we are continuing west, and there's 3 islands that we can stay along. We're skipping this one, going to the middle one. We'll spend the night there, check the weather, and then go to the next one and check the weather, and then head over to Sardinia. So at this point it's goodbye to Italian mainland. This is our approach into the anchorage of Ischia Island. Hoping to get a nice spot and stay for the night. Again, Navally's led us down the garden path. No anchorage here. Depth's definitely shallower than what Navionics is saying. So we're going to go around this mound with the castle on top and try the other side. Came to the other side of this mound, which the castle is actually, and certainly the wall, goes all the way around. And anyway, we're on the other side of the wall and we're anchored where all the other boats are, so we have no idea what Navally's talking about, that the north side of this wall is actually an anchorage. Honestly, it's the umpteenth time we've been misled by Navally. Today is the 22nd of June. We're up early this morning, weighed anchor. It's around about 6:30, I guess. And this is the island of Ischia, where we spent the night last night. And as I turn around, it's quite a pretty island as well, very green, mountainous. And we're coming up to the top end of the mountain, the northern end. And we will turn to port once we get there and head to the next island, about 47 nautical miles away, which is Pontine. And we'll sit there and wait for weather to head over to Sardinia. We're on our way to Pontine Island, and this is island that we're passing called Pontine. Tiny little island, but with the upcoming weather that we're aware of, we definitely don't want to be anchored here. So we are continuing on, but as you can see, completely flat, calm seas, very hazy, and of course this is the calm before the storms. It's just after 3 in the afternoon, and we have arrived at our anchorage off the island of Pontine. This will be our last stop, and while we wait for weather to head to Sardinia. It's also a very picturesque island, lots of cliffs. We're anchored off a beach. Looks very festive. And then as I come round into the sun a bit, but hopefully you can still see the cliffs. And they're all different colours. There's grey, yellow, brown. Actually very pretty. I don't know if it'll come out in the video. And then that's the town over there. And as I come round, that's the end of the anchorage. So it's a nice big horseshoe bay facing east, so hopefully we'll have good protection from the westerlies in any other direction that this wind comes in. So just after we've arrived now, we're having a good look at this little place, and the rock formations are amazing. I'm just zooming in so you can actually see not only the different colours but the different type of rock. Let's go around slowly. That's all like a white really in the sun. Come around. The sun shining on it. And the background of the beach as well. Limestone, different colours. You can see the oranges and browns, mustard almost. And it comes back round to the white. It's the beach, and there's more white. It's amazing really. And there it goes around the grey, to almost a grey colour. Very interesting. Here's some more of the rock formation if I zoom in. This is like shades of oranges and mustards. I don't know if it'll come out. It's actually quite pretty. This is Roy's first swim of the season, where he doesn't have to go in to do anything with the bottom of the boat. He's just going in for a swim. Let's see what happens when he hits that water. Off you go. It's obviously cold, like I told him. Was that just a dip, or are you going to stay in?
No, I'm getting out.
The surrounding area around the anchorage was absolutely stunning. Besides being a very pretty island, it was rather interesting from the perspective of the various rock formations of different colors we could see all around the anchorage. The anchorage we chose was a little closer to the very picturesque town of Pontine, but it was a tad busier with local boats and water taxis ferrying folks back and forth to the beach at the head of the bay, which was only accessible by boat. Today is Friday, the 23rd of June, and we are in the dinghy and coming ashore to this little town called Pontine. Of course, we've got our usual challenge of finding where to leave the dinghy, but it's very picturesque. So we're hoping to enjoy a little bit of wander around and see a little bit of the place. So we've managed to beach the dinghy, and just wanted to take a video a little closer up. All these boats are for rent, so I can just imagine in the summertime, a high season, the anchorages must be bedlam. Impressed with what we saw, our first task was to find somewhere to have a coffee and a baked delight. So we're just enjoying a coffee and overlooking the bay, and this is the size of the ferry that's coming in here. And it's enormous, I mean, compared to everything else, as you can see, and it's going into a tiny little harbour over there. I want to see this happen. Crazy. No wonder anchoring in this part of the anchorage or bay is completely forbidden. You get heavily fined. These big boats have to manoeuvre in here. It's now turning to actually reverse in, obviously carrying vehicles. But boy, what a big ship to manoeuvre in this tiny area. It's almost turned, and then he's going to reverse into a tiny little spot. There he goes, reversing in. And there he is, almost backed all the way in. Dwarfing everything, including the buildings. We've walked a little bit further down the waterfront, and this is a view from here. And this is the little town harbour. And as I pan round, you'll see this massive ferry that's just arrived, and of course we met all the cars coming off it and all the people. So our Med mooring wasn't as bad as this guy, but anyway, it's obviously a fishing boat with all the small fishing boats on board, and they're all coming home. They all seem to have their own little supply of their fish in a bucket, but if you look carefully, you can probably see underneath here is the storage for the fish that they've caught. It's straightening up eventually. Came in all skew. Straightening up. Felt sorry for the dinghy on the other side there. Just got squashed. As we continued our snoop around, we discovered a lovely little town, painted in pastel colours, reminding us of the Greek island of Semi, although inundated with crowds of people, mostly Italians, coming over on the Foss ferries from Rome. We did spot the odd foreign tourists, but they were few and far between. We later discovered this was a top weekend and holiday destination for Italians, particularly from Naples and Rome. It wasn't long before we found out just how popular this island was. This is us walking along, trying to find a dustbin. Believe it or not, it's our biggest challenge in Italy, is finding somewhere to put the trash. And you can walk for miles. think Roy might have spotted somewhere. Oh, he has. And we just break up our garbage into smaller bags so they can fit in the small little dustbins that they have. Crazy stuff. Anyway, this is another beach we've come to en route. This is the anchorage where you're not allowed to anchor, or the area of the bay where you're not allowed to anchor. Successfully disposed of it. So this tunnel is for pedestrians, cars, motorbikes, you name it, and it's not very wide. So you take your life in your hands when you come along here. But hey ho, we've seen this everywhere in Italy. I guess that's the result of the age of these towns and cities and villages. Anyway, there we go. Make sure you don't fall and trip over anything. Yep, and then you get someone like this who's now stopping in the middle of it all. I'm not quite sure why. But maybe to get past us. Don't know. Yes, there we go. No idea.
He's going to park in the middle of the tunnel.
Yep. Oh, he's stopping in the middle of the tunnel. And out the other end we come. After eventually being able to dispose of our garbage, we headed back to Pawpaw. So it's Friday evening and there's been an invasion. Every single boat in Italy must have arrived in this anchorage today. It's absolutely chock-a-block. All shapes and sizes. All the way around. We come around this way, come a little bit over. It continues. Around here, all the mega yachts in the distance. And there's 3 anchorages around here, and they're all completely and utterly jam-packed. And we're just putting up our anchor ball. Don't often put it up, but we decided we better. So it's Saturday, the 24th of June. We came ashore for some breakfast, and being a Saturday morning, it is absolute bedlam here. Ferries arriving, people everywhere. The anchorages are packed. Anyway, we'll have our coffee and go back to the boat, but we're just going to be bounced around out there as well. So this morning, when we went to town for breakfast, I took a video of how busy town was, mostly with Italian tourists, very few foreigners that we could spot or hear, but they're all coming over from Rome in the big fast ferries. Anyway, I'm about to get wobbled around here, so let me just hold on to something. This is pretty typical of this anchorage right now. It's churned up beyond belief. But anyway, on sea in the anchorage, the boats are just coming fast and furious as well. It is chock-a-block. It's a long time since we've been in an anchorage that's this busy. And this is the back of the anchorage I'm showing you now. So we come around, come all the way around, and this is one of a number of anchorages on this island. As I come around, it's a pity it's into the sun right now. It's about 7 o'clock in the evening, and I'm going to zoom in so hopefully you can see the amount of boats that are actually literally chock-a-block in here, all vying for a spot. Of course, I'm trying to not lose my balance and fall over as we bounce around. There's a party boat next to us. But yeah, there's all sorts of craft in here and from all over the world. We've seen Australian flag, we've seen English flag like ourselves, we've seen various European countries flagged, and of course Italians galore. But as Roy mentioned, it's a long time since we've been in an anchorage that is so festive as well. Everybody's out having a great old time. Here's an example of how tight things are, of people coming in. There's another super yacht. Or a motor yacht, should I say, looking for his space, doing a 180-degree turn so he can drop his anchor back down into another little open space. But not too many of them around at this time of the day. Well, he's dropped his anchor, but I don't think he has enough space with the depth we're in. We're in 12 meters right now, and we've got about 50 meters of chain out, a little bit more maybe. and he's going to back down, and it looks like he could be right on top of the blue boat by the time he's finished, but we'll see. Sunday, June the 25th, and we are anchored off Pontine Island for another day, waiting on weather to cross to Sardinia. And we decided to explore a little further afield on our feet, walking. And this is the anchorage on the opposite side to where we are anchored. So this is the west side. It's absolutely beautiful. And it goes up. A close-up of the cliffs that this anchorage backs up to. Give you an idea of how high they are, but the beautiful water as well. It's crystal clear, you can see right through the bottom, and it's the same on our side, crystal clear water, we can see the bottom. This is a view on the other side of the bay we just looked at, and it's got all these beautiful wild flowers all in bloom. It's so pretty. So we're a little further up the mountain, as you can hear from my huffing and puffing, but this is back to the eastern side of the island, and this is a view over the town of Pontine and the town harbour. We get further up the mountain and you can see the vegetation is still very lush, but it's mostly cacti on the one side, and then you come round and it looks like sugarcane on this side. Crazy mixture. So this is another view, close to the hilltop now, but really beautiful. Here's the perfect view of the town and the town harbour. This is the highest we're going to go. I'm going to turn around and go back down again. But this is the other side of the anchorage, and then in the distance is the anchorage where Pawpaw is on the other side of those rocks, but we're not going to go any higher up. But very pretty from up here. These were a few more of the beautiful homes that we spotted during our second day of wandering around the island. However, after enjoying a fabulous hike over to the western side of the island, when we returned to Pawpaw, the mayhem in the anchorage had exponentially worsened, so we decided to move to another anchorage altogether. So we've re-anchored for the third time, and this time we've decided to move to a different anchorage in the hope of getting a more calm and peaceful environment. Unfortunately, even though the wind is from the west, the swell is from the northeast, and we're sitting side to it. So we're still wobbling around, but it's definitely not as chaotic as the anchorage next door. But as you can see, beautiful cliffs, just all different colors, and there is a little beach at the head of the bay. But where we came from is just on the other side of this headland. Today is Monday the 26th of June. We've looked at the weather again on Weather Watch for the last few days while we've been on anchored off Pontine Island, and there's a bit of a mixed bag as well with the different models and forecasts, so we don't quite know exactly what we're going to get, but either way everything is moderating as we go, so that's the good news. So we are underway and heading to Sardinia. It's fair to say though, Pontine Island was a wonderful surprise and definitely another highlight of our adventures through Italy. Today is Tuesday, the 27th of June. We have just completed an overnight sail from Pontine Island, and we are arriving now at about just before 9 in the morning to Sardinia. Very arid, very dry looking, but our challenge is the weather once again. We never got the weather we thought we were getting when we left yesterday morning. We had a bit of a uncomfortable ride yesterday throughout the day, but it calmed down last night. But what we've discovered is there are two low pressure systems developing, one to the north of here and one to the south of here, which gives us winds in every direction. So now our challenge is choosing an anchorage that's going to give us the best protection, because there aren't any anchorages that are protected from every direction of wind. So this has to be one of the most arid islands we've seen, just off the coast of Sardinia. There's hardly anything growing on it. But as I come round, you'll see in the distance there's plenty of yachts, super yachts anchored off it. So we're going to go have a snoop. Okay, so this is a bit further along this island, and this is a big bay here. Obviously looks nice and calm and protected. But if I zoom in, you'll see there's very low land, and right at the front is all mooring balls. And people are anchored behind those. Must be some sort of beach destination. So, our last stop in Italy. And this was a song that inspired us to actually buy Pawpaw, People of the Sea. So we eventually arrived in Sardinia early this morning, sailed overnight, and we had a little bit of a sleep, and we wanted to come ashore just to have something to eat or a coffee or something. And we found out that there's new laws that you can't beach a dinghy anywhere. So after hunting around, we eventually managed to find a solution to our problem, and that is this taxi service. Yeah, you might see our tender on a mooring board. And in the car park, I guess, you can find out for how much. But it is a lovely area, nice beach, around, obviously all public beach. But everybody out the rest of the beach, it goes all the way around, very pretty, and we're hoping to get something to eat at this restaurant, which is over there. Anyway, we'll see. And if we had known that there was this restriction now, that you can't actually leave a tender on the beach, which is fine. Give us a dinghy dock at least, but they clearly don't want the yachties here. So anyway, so be it. So the last few days we were anchored a little further out, not far from the big ketch across the way. And we decided, with the westerly winds arriving, which are expected tomorrow, we would re-anchor and come closer towards the west shore. And we are literally, if I turn around and we come around slowly, we are literally backing on to the swim area. There's one of the buoys. I mean, there's a few meters between us and the back end of the swim area. However, we barely got settled. I thought, okay, this will be good when we turn around. This guy's anchored in front of us now, but that's okay, because when the stronger winds come, he'll be behind us. But this is the little gaggle that arrived shortly after we re-anchored. And this chap over here is going to be swinging across our bow when we turn. And we've now just seen that big cat come screaming in through the anchorage, all his fenders down, so that makes it all okay. And literally anchoring right across the dinghy drop off lane, pick up and drop off lane. And really, if I zoom in a little further, you'll see there's the rest of the buoys that denote the swimming area. He must be in them, and he's now lifting his anchor. And just behind him you can see the dinghy car park, so to speak, where we hire a ball to leave our dinghy. And it's just unbelievable the speed he came in at. just unfathomable, quite honestly. If I zoom in here, you'll see this is one of the markers for the swim lane. As I come round, it's into the sun, but there's another one, and there's another one, and then here's the gaggle of boats that have come in behind us that are now going to be in front of us when we turn. And there's the big cat who's now on top of, if you look carefully, if I can zoom in, there's another boat behind this guy. You can barely see his bow sticking out, and the cat's just anchored on top of him, blocking the whole lane and literally squeezed in between the rest of the yachts and the swim lane. Staggering. And with the strong winds, the beaches are definitely a lot more sparsely populated than what they've been over the last few days since we've been here. With the bad weather, the beaches were more or less deserted, so we were able to dinghy ashore, leave the dinghy floating in the water, and enjoy lovely long walks along the beach, accompanied by a mid-morning coffee and a baked delight at one of the cafes. Other excursions ashore involved a hike or two around the neighborhood to enjoy the inland scenery, visiting the campground convenience store along the way. From the size of the standalone villas nestled amongst the natural vegetation, it was clear that this area of Sardinia was much more upmarket than other areas we've seen during our sail through Italy. The campsite was also at the upper end of the scale compared to other campsites we've seen during our travels, boasting pretty gardens and major security system installations, partitioning, fencing, controlled access gates, cameras, etc. We weren't exactly sure what the crime situation was here, but they certainly had the security systems to accommodate it. Today is the 1st of July. This is the weather that we've been waiting on to blow through. It has been preventing us from moving any further north and along the northern coast of Sardinia to head to the Balearics, but certainly the windsurfers are out enjoying the breeze. It is a very strong breeze. We've got winds primarily 20 to 25 knots, gusting 33 knots thereabouts. So this boat next to us dragged, as you can see where he's positioned, he dragged all the way down. But we have a few other boats around us, but they are nicely spaced out. The guy that anchored in front of us last night left this morning, so we didn't have him swinging across our bow all day, which was a blessing. Although we were still weather-bound for nearly a week due to bad weather north of Porto Taverna, specifically between northern Sardinia and southern Corsica, we still needed to find other anchoring possibilities up the northeast coast and the northern coast of Sardinia, and to find a staging anchorage for our sail over to Spain. Today is the 2nd of July and we still have these howling mistral winds, but this afternoon Roy had to pop out to do a dinghy rescue. They lost power on the engine, couldn't get it started, and we're battling to row against the obviously strong winds and waves coming out the west. So he's managed to get them back to their boat. The anchorage has also got extremely busy. We're thinking that maybe a lot of boats are staging themselves here to get further north and to get around the northern end of Sardinia once these mistrals abate. We had hoped that they'd start to abate today. They did abate this morning, but they seem to be back up this afternoon again. So we're just holding out. We can't go anywhere else. We just have to wait for it to go away. This morning we decided to take a break from being yacht bound and went ashore, enjoyed a coffee and a baked delight, and the beaches were a lot busier, but as the winds picked up this afternoon they tend to have emptied out a little bit. But yeah, we're just hoping that this wind abates soon. We've been here for 6 days already waiting on it. The dinghy is back with its yacht and the people on board, which is over there, but Roy seems to be taking some other people to another yacht, not quite sure where. We'll see. Absolutely no idea where he's going. They're heading straight out of the bay. A bit worrying in this weather. I don't know if there's something lost further out. They're trying to get to it. I'm not sure. Looks like a windsurfer might be in trouble. So that's where they're heading. Can't get back in. That's not good. Looks like another dinghy has spotted the problem, heading out to provide some assistance. We don't have the strongest engine anymore, so hopefully they get back okay. Now you can see the windsurfer up now. Looks like he's trying to head back into the bay. Whatever the problem was, he was struggling. Well, the windsurfer has been rescued. Obviously the rental company came out in their dinghy and they have him. I'll just zoom in. He's just in front of this cat now, and Roy is on his way back with the other two people that he had helped with the dinghy. They obviously spotted the problem, went out in their dinghy, and then their motor cut out. So anyway, they're on their way back. Good news. Today is the 3rd of July, and as you can tell from the video, we are still weather-bound, pinned down by the very strong westerlies blowing through the Straits of Bonifacio. And here we sit. This is our 7th day, I think. Yep, our 7th day. But it's a lovely view, we can't really complain. We've come ashore again, used the dinghy car park service, paid our €5, and enjoying another coffee ashore, break from the boat. Again, we have to shake our heads in dismay. This boat has just come in, wide open bay, plenty of room to either side of us and behind us. Way in front of us, you can see there's a huge gap between them and the yachts up ahead. And no, they anchor right across our bow and swinging in the wind. It's just staggering. Quite honestly, we can't fathom it at all. Well, happy 4th of July to all our American family and friends. We've eventually set sail again from our anchorage in Sardinia in Porto Taverna, and we are trying to get further up the northeastern coast of Sardinia. Our first hurdle is all these ferries. We've had to slow down and turn to starboard to let them all come past the front of us. There's another one. Over there. All going into the commercial port that is a bit further around. We have one more that's still approaching, and we'll have to just wait for him to pass, and then we can carry on our way. This is the last of them that we're waiting on to pass, so that we can continue on. These guys fly along at 25 knots. You don't want to get in front of them, that's for sure. So we've continued up the northeastern coast of Sardinia. We had a rough start with very strong winds and very choppy seas, but it is moderating, which was the forecast. And as we come around, this is just an idea of some of the scenery. But as I come all the way around, there's a lighthouse just at the end there, so if you can see it over there, and once we go around that corner we're going to know whether we can continue on or not. We'll have to come back and anchor. It's just after 1 o'clock and we've arrived in our anchorage for the night. Not a lot here, a few other yachts, a few larger yachts, a few super yachts, and windsurfers. On shore there isn't much either, just a very long beach. Looks like a few people out for the day. But other than that, there's nothing here. Nice and quiet. The other side of the anchorage. Up around that headland is the northern tip of Sardinia, which we plan to get around tomorrow and continue west. After 7 days of waiting, as you can see, not much out here, and the wind is still blowing, but we're pretty well protected from fetch. Continued along the north coast. Unfortunately, we seem to have the current with us, so we can continue on. But this looks like an old ancient settlement on one of the outer islands here. But as I come around, there's obviously new buildings here, but this is all off limits to yachts, so we won't be stopping there. Moving on. So this is our view coming down the Strait of Pontine. We're obviously on the outside of it, and the islands break it up, but it's very desolate as well. Here's some more of the scenery as we make our way through the strait. And in the distance, you can zoom in, it looks like a town. Motorcraft of all sorts, shapes and sizes, and travelling at high speed were the norm around Italy, bouncing us around as they passed. Here's the wake. Nicely done. Today is the 5th of July. We sailed from our anchorage last night all day today. It is just before 5 o'clock in the evening, and we've got to our anchorage. It's actually quite spectacular. These are the little outer islands. We go through the gap, which you can't really see because the land looks like it's continuous, but there's a gap between these islands here. Tomorrow morning set sail for Spain, and but we definitely saved the best for last. It's a pity with the sun, you may not see the anchorage, but the water is clear as anything. Beautiful turquoise blue. You can still hear the wind, but it's definitely moderated, and at least we're protected here behind this little island. So we'll be here for the night. Moving on to pastures new. More footage of the anchorage as I come around. The water is just beautiful. Definitely welcoming.